I want to transition a little bit to men becoming better with women. I'm not talking the bedroom, but just getting experience with beautiful women. I think there's an element of how do I do it? And a lot of guys are waiting. It's like, I'm going to get wealthy and become high value, and then I'm going to focus on women. Sometimes those guys become that and they're awkward and weird with women. So what would your advice be for men to start to become better, build charisma, build a certain energy with women, know how to operate well with women? Do you have any advice for men like that?
Embrace rejection. And what I mean by this is our identity is defined by what we reject. Yeah. So if I reject carbs and sugar, I'll have a great body. If I reject alcohol and nights out, I'll sleep better, whatever it is. So what happens is that rejection is something we have to embrace in order to evolve. Now, yes, when we use pornography or when we use wealth to attract women, what will happen is you're still not accessing or embracing rejection. You're kind of putting buffers up so that she can't reject you. And this is why a lot of rich men use escorts. They still create a buffer to prevent the rejection process. Now, when we prevent ourselves from being rejected, we prevent ourselves from learning the intricacies of women. We are just literally getting a robotic response from women, and therefore we can't actually engage with them authentically. But when you embrace rejection, you try and meet a girl and she says no to you, you learn, oh, that's weird. Why did she say no to me? I wonder what was going on. You learn through those things. And then eventually you realize that if a girl rejects me, I don't die. Nothing. I carry on with my day.
But it feels like it.
It feels like it. But it's reality. She will reject many men, and she'll end up maybe with a man half of who you are. Acceptance and rejection process is not to do with the quality of the man. It's to do with her own self-esteem. If she meets a high-quality man, but she doesn't feel deserving of it, she'll look for that bum that can't hold down a job. Or if she's got high standards and entitled, she'll meet a high-quality man and then still ruin his life. It's really about her own self-esteem. So rejection isn't personal, but it is a recipe for a growth. And when we accept it, we start to realize it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So what man doesn't get rejected by women? What woman doesn't reject a man, or vice versa? We all experience it. The ability to understand the suffering of rejection is better than the suffering of becoming awkward and avoiding. There's suffering in both. Yeah. If I suffer through rejection, at least the outcome is resilience. If I suffer through being awkward, the outcome is I'm going to be used and abused.
Yes. And I'm going to have low access to choice, which means when I find the one beautiful woman, I'm going to let her use and abuse me. I agree completely with that.
She can smell that from a mile away.
So one of the things that I did, I had a powerful experience when I was in college. I grew up in a Christian family, 3 older sisters. A lot of my siblings waited until they were married, so a very traditional household. I hadn't done that, but I was living with a roommate in college who I can quite literally say he was having more threesomes than I was getting phone numbers from women. And so in my early 20s, I was thinking, I don't understand this game. I don't understand how this works. I'm the guy who shows up with the flowers. I'm the guy who compliments her and does all this. And so my journey in understanding women and understanding dating was actually to seek what you just talked about there, a lot of rejection. So I even totaled it and counted it. I did over 2,000 what you call cold approaches, like going to women in the bar, the street during the daytime, and I didn't drink for it either. And what I found through that process is it wasn't only an understanding to really understand what women respond to, not what they say, but also an understanding of my own psychology and the energy I show up with, and how it's so much less about the words I say. It's so much less about the clothes I wear or the watch on my wrist, but it's really about the energy I emit in the actual presence of that woman. I love what you're saying. I agree with it completely. I think it comes down to, are you willing as a man to face rejection? And if you are, the inevitable is going to be you getting better.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I agree. What happens with women, very little of their attraction is based on how you treat them, and entirely based on who you are as a man. So women will be attracted to a man that doesn't reply to them, but if she sees him as a valuable man, she'll form a pseudo attraction to him. And another guy can be treating her really well and all of those things, but if she doesn't see you as valuable, she'll see it as an insult that you're treating her well. So what will happen is they are attracted to you, and like I said, your willingness to walk away, your willingness to know that you're not actually there to gain her approval. You're there to create a connection. If she's not reciprocating it, the outcome of creating a connection can't happen. So you no longer want her. But the man that wants her, and that's more important than creating a connection, he will find himself in these awkward situations. Whereas when the reality is, me, you, every man, every woman, the outcome in life we should be seeking is a good, healthy connection. If somebody is not reciprocating it and not giving us the same energy, no matter how much we try, they're not going to give us that outcome. So they're going to give us a different outcome, which might be rejection, or it might be, oh, I get to sleep with a hot girl, or it might be, I get to be with a rich man. But it doesn't give us the long-term outcome of a healthy relationship. And if you make that your outcome, you will start to detach from people and focus on the goal. And then that way you won't be so worried when you get rejected.
Wow. I love that. Making it not about this specific person, but the actual end goal being that deeper connection.
Yeah. And if somebody's rejecting you, they're actually just redirecting you to your outcome. They're almost giving you a shortcut to the outcome. Like, I can spend 6 months trying to court somebody and then end up single, or they reject me after 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm back to trying to find my outcome. It's not about the goal. It's about the outcome.
I love that. And what a beautiful way of viewing it. Thank you for helping me get to my outcomes.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you see it. Thank you. You've redirected me.
Beautiful. I have a couple questions for you. You know, one thing that always fascinates me, and I think for a lot of men, we're fascinated by it, is the idea of women really liking things like 50 Shades of Grey. In the movie 365, if you've seen that movie, why is there a deep primal attraction, maybe sexual attraction to these type of movies? I don't know if you're familiar with both of those or the book 50 Shades of Grey.
I know roughly, but is the sex in there harmful, or what is it that makes women attracted? Like, could you give me a summary of it?
My perspective on it is it tends to be a guy who's a bit dangerous. Like, he has the power to do what he wants with her. In both these situations, he can kill her if he wants to. He can do whatever he wants with her, but he's choosing to be kind, or he's choosing to love her. There's an element of total control that he takes. There's an element of power he has over her. There's an element of danger with him as well, where they don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to take advantage of me or not? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what they're really looking for is to feel special. Now, when a man treats most women badly, but treats you well, or you have the capacity to unlock a side of him that most women haven't, it's their own egotistical drive to feel special. Whereas if he's nice to everybody and good to everybody, and he was good to his ex, and he's good to his mother-in-law, and he's good to a colleague, what happens is the reason why women get less drawn to that is because they don't feel as special. Whereas when he's that difficult man, he's difficult with her, he hated her, treated her badly, I feel special. So they end up being attracted to that. But the reality is that man that is difficult and then is nice to you, although you feel special for 5 minutes, you're going to have to live with this volatile man. And it's not a good look. You're better off with a man that has a stable sense of values and treats everybody well. Women in general, love is a bit more egotistical than we realize. And we value the idea of feeling special more than the actual outcome of a good connection. So when we meet a man who's typically mean, he's typically mean to previous girls, typically mean to other people in general, but he shows us snippets of kindness, it makes us feel more special. So we attach to him. Whereas the man that is kind to the co-worker, kind to his exes, kind to his mother-in-law, we don't feel as special, and therefore we're less attracted. But the reality is, again, it takes you away from that long-term outcome. If the long-term outcome is a healthy relationship, the guy that is selectively kind will also be selectively kind with you in the long run, and you won't be able to sustain it. So that 5 minutes of feeling special is going to lead to a lifetime of emotional volatility. It's better to be with a guy that is consistently kind. But when women, especially when they don't normally feel special and they've got low self-esteem, when a horrible man is nice to you, oh my God, I must be so special. So they attach to that.
Wow. I love that. If he's selectively kind to other people, he will be selectively kind to you as well. Powerful. What questions do you have for me, if any?
Oh God, I don't usually get a chance to ask any questions, but when in your work and your line of like working with successful men, do you believe that men are honest with each other about what's going on in their relationships?
It depends on the space. The community that I have and that we've created, we go through a process of open kimono, where it's one man speaks his truth to the group. And it's very clear when you have like 10 or 15 guys on a call and they're hearing one man speak, you can tell if he's actually coming from truth or if he's lying. Even by the sound of his voice, even by the way he's answering questions. In general, I think a lot of men in their friend groups don't. But when men have a very tight-knit group or community that's meant to make them closer, they will be honest because they have to be. Because people will call them out if they're not.
Yeah, and one of the things that these men in general, online especially, are suffering from is they don't have a space to be honest. So the reason my perspective tends to challenge the what's going on is because they can only be honest to me. You're not going to pay for a phone call and speak to a woman about your problems and then lie about it. You have to be honest. So that when I come out and say this is what's happening, it's seen as so groundbreaking. But it's only because when they all sit around a microphone and do a podcast, they'll be like, "Oh, we want to go with low body count," but really they're in love with an escort, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't want to go like my friends." But really she slept with his friend way before she met him. So they lie. They lie so much. And the narrative is always women lie, women lie. Nobody lies more than a man who has a microphone on a podcast with a bunch of other men. Yeah, unfortunately, because they want to sell that macho-ness, but they don't want to sell the reality. And I really think it's time for men to be a little bit more honest. And I know it's very emasculating and stuff, but if they can't be honest with their friendship circle, try and seek help. Try and seek somebody that you can be, because you need a sounding board. And so many times they're with the wrong type of woman, they're being used and abused. And, it's good men that find themselves in these positions, because good men see the best in people and they give people chances and they want to believe their partner. So it's usually the good men that suffer the most, but try not to. Try and find some honest space, especially a platform like you've created where there's no judgment. We're here to heal. And I think that was really helpful for them.
And I love that. I love what you brought up too. And I know that one of the services you offer is that space for the one-to-one coaching where a man can come and be completely vulnerable and honest about what's going on. I think that is just such a powerful tool that every man should make use of, is to have that space.
And especially if you're paying for escorts. That's what I always say to them. I'm like, you can pay my fees. If you're going to pay for an escort and, then you can pay for a one-to-one with me, and you can at least then release all that tension and all that stuff and put your money in constructive places, and you will see that it will benefit you in the long run. If you put it in the wrong woman, you'll be left with nothing, emotionally and financially.
That makes complete sense. I have a question. We talked a little bit about some of the men in the manosphere today. I want to get your take on the Fresh and Fit podcasts and the advice they give around women and kind of like keeping her at bay, just giving her enough. What's your take on that type of language and that type of guidance?
Well, the thing is, again, like I said, that advice, if you have this idea, treat them mean, keep them keen, and I know lots of men follow this advice, what happens is you'll only attract a broken woman. And you can never fix a broken woman, because here's the reality. Healthy women don't accept inconsistency. Healthy women don't accept poor behavior. So when you meet a healthy woman who wants the outcome of a good relationship and wants to be monogamous and wants to have a family and wants to be there for you, if you are taking ages to reply, talking to other girls in front of her, having sex with lots of women, she filters herself out of that situation. She can't cope with that chaos. But if you have this treat and mean, keep them keen, and she gets more attached to you, this is a woman who is designed for chaos. So even when you decide to stop playing this game and you want to settle down and have a baby, she will then be creating the chaos in the form of having sex with other men, talking back to you, coming home late, because you have now filtered out healthy women and are only going to attract broken women. So I don't agree with it.
Wow. Mic drop.
Oh, I do what I do, right? It's just, I need to go on this show at some point. It's just that it's so lowbrow. I just don't want to be sat next to a bunch of OnlyFans girls and porn stars, not because I have any judgment towards them, but it's my religious values and stuff. I can't be in that circle in a big thing, but I really do want to go on their show. So we'll see. We'll try.
I love that. Yeah, and I do agree on the lowbrow. I think it's worth it for you to get in there and give the right message, but it is a bit much.
I wouldn't feel clean afterwards. That's the only problem.
To the mosque immediately afterwards.
I think so. I don't know. I think I would really feel dirty afterwards, but I should try. I should try and bury that. But at the moment, I think because my parents keep an eye on everything I do, I have to just be a little bit mindful.
For sure. One final question, then I have a couple questions about your services that I want to go into. For a man who is wanting to date higher quality women, maybe women who would quote unquote out of his league, what is your advice to him? How can he start to be on that path to attracting more attractive women, more quality women? What can he do?
When it comes to women that are out of your league, when you let them know and make them believe they are out of your league, they will treat you accordingly. Whereas when you're a man who, even when she's out of your league, you give the impression that you're used to this is just how women come for you, then what will happen is she will feel lucky. The last thing you want to do is be in a relationship where a woman is not as attached to you as you are to her. And there is a myth that like the man should love the woman more and that's how it should be. It's the opposite in the real world. In the real world, in order for a relationship to last, it either has to be equal or the woman has to attach to the man more. With men, they're quite good at being complacent. So if they're not madly in love with a woman, but they've got kids and they don't want to go through the rigmarole of a divorce or whatever it is, they can stay put for quite some time. With women, if they feel like this, they're not in love, they will damage an entire family system to go find that guy that they're in love with. So you are setting yourself up for so much danger if you want to be with a girl that's out of your league and she knows it. Even with my partner, I'll use him as an example. Maybe to somebody else on a looks version, and not to me, but somebody else might say, oh, she's, how'd you get her and blah, blah. But I've never felt that with him because he never gave me the energy that I was out of his league. He was never in awe of me. He was never like, oh my God, Sadia, if anything, I'm the one that's like. So what happens is it's psychological. You create a connection where she feels lucky to have you, even if she's out of your league. And then what will happen is you maintain the power dynamics. But if she's out of your league and you're going to worship her, the relationship won't be worth it. I promise you. You don't want it. It will be a damaging relationship.
Powerful. I agree completely. And I think this comes back to the most important concept for men in dating, that's frame.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a man who has a strong frame where he believes and knows exactly who he is, he knows where he's going, and he knows what he deserves. Exactly. And that frame, when it's felt by a woman, it doesn't matter if he maybe doesn't look as good, quote unquote, by society standards. He knows who he is, and he knows what he deserves. And that confidence and that certainness and that groundedness allows a man to be in such a powerful place where it's almost as if a woman falls into that frame and believes it as well.
You'll believe it. And you'll be with girls who are so beautiful, who are crying over a guy that's half of what she has to offer. And you'll say, why are you doing this? But it's because he's convinced her that he can replace her and he has a willingness to walk away if he wants to. So she's almost like, she just forgets, I'm not saying manipulate, but I'm saying become a man that no woman is out of your league. Become a man where even if no woman is out of your league at all, no woman can intimidate you. And if she is out of your league and she starts acting like she's out of your league, I don't want her.
Love that. And it goes back to what you said about finding a woman who's equally as in love with you, or maybe even more in love with you.
Even more.
Or else you're going to have a headache on your hands.
She'll destroy the whole family unit if she has to. So it's dangerous.
This has been incredible. One of the things that I love about the insights that you give is it's clear that it's grounded in experience, both from your own personal experience, but also with clients too. Like I can really feel that. And it's also grounded in some really powerful evolutionary psychology and biology of what women really look for. And I think whenever I'm looking at things through a dating lens, it's always that, what is hardwired in us, both from our past, but also our culture too. Very, very powerful insights you've given here. I want to know more where guys can connect with you, how they can work with you, how they can collaborate with you.
Oh, thank you. So if you do want some online coaching, I recommend for clients with from your background to actually just take a month retainer. In that, you can access me on social media, which will have my link in my bio that will explain my website and also how to book an appointment. And then from there, I tend to be able to evaluate how much you might need. Sometimes you don't need a lot, sometimes you do. And then from there, we can work on a package to outline any of the struggles that you're experiencing and how to resolve them. And I try my absolute best to make sure each session, quite a few problems have been resolved. It's not just, we're talking and seeing how things go. It's very much like, I always say I'm like the McDonald's of therapy. It's like, here you go, here's your food, bye. It's very practical and I get that feedback constantly. So it's not a case of you're just talking at somebody and they're just saying, how do you feel? It's very much right, let's problem solve. And so hopefully if you do need me, you feel free to contact me through those routes.
And I love that you brought that up too. Obviously with the psychology background you have, it's still practicality. And I think that's what I love about the advice you're giving here. It's not, we're going to sit down and do therapy for a year. It's let's get to the root of it.
Nobody's got time for it, especially when you're busy. Nobody's got time to sit there and talk about it for hours on end. You just, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? And so that is definitely the type of advice you'd receive.
And I'll put all the links to your Instagram as well, and also your website too. What else would you like to share or tell people? Is there anything else you would like to?
No, I just think, sometimes if you see my snippets, it can be a little bit triggering, and I trigger a lot of men and I trigger a lot of people. But if you take the opportunity to actually invest in understanding what I mean, I promise you it's there to help you. I don't ever say anything that I wouldn't believe would help you in the long run. So try your best to avoid the triggers and focus on the reason why I'm saying this. And I promise you'll find some solace.
Yes. Figure out why you're being triggered. Dive into your own psychology and understand why you're being triggered. I love that. Do you work with women as well, or is it just men?
Yes, I do. I work with men and women. I work with a lot of gold diggers, so I know all of the tricks. So if you ever want to know, because they're on the other line saying, this idiot's paying for the call, so you can take 20 sessions. And he's on the call being like, who's spending my money? And I'm like, oh, perfect. So I work with both of you, I'm afraid. So I have a great insight, but I also work with women, married couples, everybody. Thank you so much for all your insightful questions. And I really hope it was valuable for you.
Cool. Sadia, I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, okay? Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.